How does a person answer why something happens?
When you look at the findings in different fields,
Scant is the part of life in which we live.
To attain the highest values.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the like more technical side of this. So one question I have in mind, I think it was like earlier this year, you mentioned a few tools that you use outside of Notion, but not many others. I'm curious to know like an updated version now, end of 2020 here. You talked about Airtable at the beginning. Is that something you still use in conjunction with Notion?
I do. I do use it for student onboarding, like a questionnaire process. So until, Notion's API comes out, I think when their API does come out, I'll probably stop using Airtable, but it is still a great database, the fact that you can automate it with Zapier and stuff like that. Yeah. So I do still use it occasionally.
Yeah, but is that really the only thing? Otherwise, like from a database engine point of view, like you can do all of that in Notion.
Yep, I do almost everything. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's a very selfish question because I'm like thinking about that.
You're like, can I replace it? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And my team is going to laugh when they hear that. So, and then Calendly, Dropbox, you mentioned BusyCal is another one. So like those, I mean, do you see Notion being the only thing, the app to rule them all?
I mean, it is for me. I totally recognize it's not necessarily for everyone. And again, different teams, different people, different specialties. And, there's lots of great tools like Things, there's lots of awesome to-do list items. But I think I was so curious to see like, how far could I push this as an all-in-one? Like what's possible with it and then share it with people that it would be against my brand. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you're challenging.
I mean, I'm in too deep. I can't back out now, right? No, it is very much an all-in-one for me, and my assistant is so comfortable with it too, which is huge. I think when you have if you're working with team members that are also really excited about using it, it makes our lives so much easier and so much faster. So my assistant can help my clients with their Notion builds. That's incredible to me. So it's just gotten so easy and comfortable, and that's sort of where everything lives. Like again, daily journal, weekly agenda, task management, project management, wiki, resources, everything is there. So there's very few things other than say calendar blocking and stuff like that I have to worry about. So
that's almost another one of the trade-off benefits you get from sort of, I guess, accepting the unstructured, you have to put in a lot of work to build it. You get this like compounding effect of knowledge if you just keep using the same tool. And like the fact that your assistant can do that now is phenomenal. Like, because she's been using that tool for that long.
It's a game changer for sure. I think the challenge is when people they're getting excited about it and they're like just kind of learning it, and then you're trying to get team members on it when you too are not an advanced user, and then they're like, I don't know, how does this work? So that's the challenge for sure.
All right, so and then the big one, Rome. So I've heard you mention on a recent podcast how I think it sounded like you do use Rome.
No,
you don't. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, interesting. Because I think you said something like it's good for like the note taking. You saw the benefit of the note taking and that unstructured thinking sort of element of it. August Bradley recently put out a video talking about like how he works with those two together. And I mean, I love August Bradley's stuff. I think it's phenomenal. That video wasn't very like his Notion stuff was like wow, and then it was like copy and pasted from Rome into Notion. Like it wasn't like.
Oh, interesting. It wasn't like a full integration or
And it was, which is interesting. Like I think if that's the only thing he's seen, like, so I'm interested in like whether you can see them work together if they have their own place. I know this is like a hot topic for many, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and honestly, like I have not messed around with Rome enough to even know how to answer that question. I think I was like, is this another, like if my system is working, do I need to explore another tool? I think it's great if people are like, I don't know, like I just haven't quite figured out a system. But because my system is now so advanced, my master tag library connected to like everything is so connected and so templatized that it's really easy for me to work with. And it didn't feel like it's like there's lots of awesome people teaching how to use Rome, and there's, if someone else wants to take that on, and August wants to do a here's how to use Rome, and like that's awesome. I sort of think of there's going to be someone else who can cover that, and I was like, nah, I don't need to worry about that. That's that felt like a distraction for me.
Yeah. Well, that's another good example of you prioritizing things there. So how important with all of these tools and your mastery now of Notion, how important is systems thinking to all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention that too with the design thinking and systems thinking, like that's stuff that like I read for fun, right? So it's I love systems thinking. I love taking courses on systems thinking and reading about it. And Sam Carpenter has Worked the System, and there's just so many amazing books out there about systems thinking. And I think I forget maybe how much I've been exposed to it. And then even through permaculture, it's systems thinking, but with nature influences, right? So that's why I think I resonated with it so much. I'm like, oh, it's systems, but it's just, and everything started to click and connect in my brain. I'm like, this is amazing. There's systems everywhere. So I love the idea that with Notion, you're kind of making invisible systems more visible. And so you're having to actually do the work to kind of think about it in a more structured way. So again, I think that is probably part of why I was so drawn to it, and the fact that I can apply whatever structure I want and really thinking systems first. And if folks haven't been exposed to that, I think that's why it could feel really overwhelming. So you kind of have to be your own architect in a way, right? You have to think kind of long-term systems, like there's so many considerations, I think, when you're doing that build. And so that's why it can feel a bit like, where do I begin? Like, what's the first best next thing to do?
How important do you think it is to have like a working knowledge of systems thinking to be able to work well in Notion?
I don't think you have to, but I think if anything, you're going to learn how to be a systems thinker. Like I think it's the coolness of it is a tool that I think changes the way that you think.
Yeah.
It's kind of a special quality about it. Like I feel like you start to become more mindful of your own processes. So it's,
that's quite cool. Do you think there is like a productivity porn element to it, right? With any of these tools. Sure. And like, I think that's fascinating. I could definitely just watch people do tours of their workspaces for like a whole day, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if that's like, do you think that's because you're getting like a little window into how they think? Like,
100%. I love it so much. I think I said this on an office hours once. It was like looking into somebody's underwear drawer. Like it's like can be very personal, very private, and it's so interesting. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think to approach it that way. And I, like, for example, I did a live stream with my sister just for shits and giggles, and she's got ADHD, and she was like, oh, you should like, do a video, teach me how to use Notion. I'm like, that's actually hilarious. Let's try that. Because I hear actually from a lot of folks that have ADHD that are really drawn to Notion, and they feel like it's a tool that can work the way that they think, which I think is so interesting. And so having my sister, who was a brand new Notion user, how excited she was, like, I can make a feelings database and connect that to my journal. And it was just so cool to see these different ideas. I'm like, oh, I use a drop down for that. But if I did a gallery, I could, like, I feel like it elicits creativity. But like you said, there is that line of, like, are you using the tool to be productive? Are you using it as a tool for creativity? Like it can do so much for you. And so I think it requires a lot of self-management to know where the line is, and to be like, okay, now I'm taking things too far and polishing something like this is not actually a productive activity. And so if you don't have experience in that discernment and like, thinking in terms of leverage or whatever, it would be very easy to kind of take it a little too far into that productivity porn place. But it's a tool for seeing how people think, for sure. When you get to see how other people organize their spaces, it always gives me new ideas. Even when I see how a beginner uses it, I'm like, that is fascinating. That's actually a really great way to explain it to a beginner. Amazing. I'm going to go and tweak the content over here.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's almost, and that plays into a lot of, I think, is it fair to say, the success that you've had and others have had in that space? Because it's like, there is this a natural curiosity effect that happens in the beginning, which is great. And then you get this opportunity, then, wow, like actually change people's lives. And it's, you're off to the races from there. Yeah,
I think people are like, oh, wow, you have like a lot of projects on the go. And it's like, yeah, I I guess I do.
Yeah.
Like you forget, like when you're in it and then other people comment on your space, like, oh, what's that? You know, someone in the comments will like see like a little page, like, wait, what's in the manifesto page, or what's in there? Like, oh, that's your eagle eyes, you see everything.
Oh yeah, I've definitely paused a few Notion videos in my time and zoomed in.
You're like, interesting. I wonder what's in there. Yeah.
Yeah. We've talked about August Bradley a little bit on this. How do you think you guys differ in approaches to teaching Notion and to using it?
Yeah, such a good question. I totally love and respect August's work. I think where he excels is he has defined a framework, right? He has a very specific framework that he takes people through, and he's like, this is the path to an awesome setup. I think, at least what I hear from folks is they like my aesthetic approach. Like they feel like it's it's maybe more visually pleasing, a little bit more flexible. You know, I have my own best practices that I believe in, but there's actually quite a bit of similarity in our spaces, but maybe the way we name it and frame it is a little bit differently. So I heard someone describe August system as brutal, like it's like really intense, right? And you kind of have to be committed to it. Like it's pretty intense. And if it works for you, then it works for you. And people are like all in and they're like, this changes my life. And that's awesome. And I think I probably take a little bit more, maybe more visual approach. I think I'm big on whether it's the galleries or just the way I structure my pages. And that's my web design background, right? I kind of think of the pages as a bit of, it's like designing a web page. And so I think we probably attract different audiences as a result.
Different minds, different ways of thinking.
Yeah.